Rohit Bhargava is an entrepreneur, a best-selling author and founder of the Non-Obvious Company. Rohit, thanks so much for joining me in the South by Southwest Sydney studio.
Oh, it's a pleasure. I love being back in Sydney.
Fantastic. You've been here many times before.
I have. I used to live here.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
yeah.
And that's it's nice, isn't it, when you go somewhere familiar?
Yeah, it feels like a homecoming.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I'm really interested about the Non-Obvious Company. How did it come about and what was your mission at the start and how has that evolved?
Non-obvious was my way of describing what I wanted to read and see in the world, and then I tried to start creating it for myself.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sort of defined by the opposite, which is the obvious, which we're surrounded by. And non-obvious was my way of just saying, look, I want to put something original out in the world, and then I want to try and teach people how to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And then the naming of the company was sort of the classic, well, it's non-obvious, so we'll just slap company at the end of it. And that was the company.
Brilliant. And has it changed over the time since you started?
Yeah, it has. So when it started, it was all about trends.
Yeah.
So I would do a lot of trend research, and that's what people wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And at the beginning of the year, it'd be like, here are the great trends for 2017 or whatever it was. And over time, it sort of evolved to a mindset. And the mindset was, what does it take to be a non-obvious thinker? What does it take to be the sort of person who can anticipate the future? Yeah. And that's what it ended up being.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. I sort of relate to that way of thinking. I'm an improvisation comedian, I guess is the way you put it. So improv for me and being non-obvious is part of the game, and it's freeing up one's mind to think outside the square, do something different, maybe create something brand new. Is that along the lines of where you're thinking?
Yeah, absolutely. It's like you're talking about something, and especially in improv, right? You have to go for the unexpected.
Yes.
So you can't just do the exact same thing. You have to have that little bit of a twist, and that's sometimes what makes it funny.
Yeah.
And in my world,
somebody else comes up with something that
right,
makes
exactly,
you think
and then you
differently.
just kind of follow along with it, right?
That's right.
And in my world, like that version of improv is coming up with the extraordinary, right? It's coming up with the insight, the thing that not everyone sees, and it's very similar. The mindset's very similar.
Yeah, amazing. And how important is branding and networking?
Well, they're two very different things, right? Branding, I think, is very important from a consistency point of view. So the reason why I've spent so much time building the non-obvious brand to the point where like it's all trademarked and everything, I mean, it's a proper brand, is because it has meaning now for people who say, okay, I want to be non-obvious and I can do a lot of things under it. So in addition to the books, we have book awards, we have meetups, we have programs, we have like workshops, we have courses. Like so non-obvious is really a brand. Networking to me is all about kind of, it changes over time. Like early in my career, networking was I got to get out and meet people. Now in my career, networking is a little bit about like remembering who I already know, who I haven't seen in a long time.
Well, at my age,
right?
it's definitely necessary.
Yeah, right? Because like we haven't seen people. Like last week, I caught up with someone who I actually worked with when I lived in Sydney 20 years ago.
Amazing.
And I hadn't seen him in that much time. But he happened to be living in Chicago now, and I was in town, and we just reconnected, and I got to see him. And that was great.
Yeah, absolutely. And just that personal interactions is something that, you know, can easily be lost, especially the climate of the world at the moment. I mean, we're post-COVID, you know, lockdowns and things where people's work has changed drastically. Sometimes you don't interact with anybody for days, weeks, months at a time. And so just those interpersonal connections is something that's so very important because it can bolt and jolt something new perhaps.
It does. And I think that the other thing is you kind of need someone to be the person who makes that move, right? That first reconnecting move. Yeah. And I chose to try and be that person because I'm lucky more than a lot of other people that I get to travel to a lot of different places. And in those places, I'll often find someone who I haven't seen for 10 years or 15 years, and I'll send them a random message. And half the time, it either gets missed or maybe they just don't remember me the way I remember them. That's okay. Yeah. But at least I'm asking, right? At least I'm trying. And oftentimes I'll end up bringing interesting people together and they happen to live in the same city. So now they're getting introduced to someone else because I know both of them, but they don't know each other. Yes. And that's a beautiful thing too.
Yeah, it certainly is. And your session here at South by Southwest Sydney was called 4 Secrets of Non-Obvious Thinking. Can you fill us in on those 4 secrets now?
Yeah, so we talked a little bit about marketing. I'm a marketer, so of course I have an acronym. So the 4 secrets are an acronym, and the acronym is SIFT. And the idea is that we filter through the things that are unnecessary to find that which is most important. And what it stands for is the S is space. So you have to create space for new ideas.
Okay.
The I is insights. You have to be able to identify new insights. The F is focus. So you filter out the noise and learn how to focus.
Yep.
And the T is twist. You got to find a twist to make it original and different. So SIFT is the acronym, and the 4 secrets are those 4 things.
Very easy to remember. That's
Yeah,
great.
that's the point of the
that's
acronym,
the point
right?
of it, isn't
Yeah,
it? Like,
yeah.
so solved many of my problems, that's
Yeah.
for sure. And what's one key takeaway that you hope the attendees of your session take with them at the end?
So one of the things that I talked about, and we touched upon it just now when you were asking me about it, was networking, which we all kind of recognize we need to do, but it's very difficult to get emotionally up for it, right? Because you feel like you have to be someone you're not, and you have to try really hard. And there's 0.1% of people who are just alphas who love it, but the rest of us, it's a struggle.
Yeah.
And so I told them the one question that I think can transform how they approach networking, which is to ask someone, what's something non-obvious about you? Because when you ask that question, what they don't talk about is their job title or what city they live in or how many kids they have.
Yeah.
And then the key is, the interesting thing is, as soon as they answer that, you have to ask them a storytelling question. And what that means is they say something non-obvious about themselves, and you ask them a question that will elicit a story from them. And then you reverse. So you do that, and you share something non-obvious about yourself, and they ask you a storytelling question. And in 7 minutes, which is what we call it, the non-obvious 7-minute meetup, that's literally all it takes.
Yeah.
You make an amazing connection with someone on a different level. And what I heard yesterday when we did one of these here is people were like, oh, we're going to take off because we're going to go grab a drink together because we just met and we had a great conversation. We're going to keep it going.
Great.
And that's amazing.
That is amazing. It is amazing. And that's why South by Southwest is so crucial to those relationships and those bonds and for progress to take place.
Right.
Yeah. And how do you think that South by Southwest Sydney can change the trajectory of someone's career or business?
Well, I think that what's beautiful about an event like South by Southwest Sydney is that the people are here who are making those connections. They're the ones who are up and coming, but they're the ones who are established also. And this environment creates that opportunity for you to meet up no matter what your status differential is, let's call it, right? So if you're the CEO or really high up, or if you're just starting out, you can still connect with one another. And the vibe here is very much like that, which I love. Yeah. Because not every event and not every community is like that.
Very true.
And so as an external speaker who's coming in, and now this is my second year coming to this, so I could say I've been to 100% of South by Southwest Sydney's, right? I feel a responsibility to bring that community to life through what I do.
And it's also, I imagine, you've enjoyed something and you've got something from it. You want to share that with others.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'll take any excuse to come back to Australia, first of all.
Perfect.
But secondarily, yeah, I do think that part of what I talk about is be the sort of person who, when we're having a conversation and someone else would come up, I mean, they wouldn't during this interview, but in a conversation, if someone did, I would invite them into the conversation right away because that's the type of person I want to be. Yeah. And in the community of South by Southwest Sydney, I think we can create that just by making the intention being that. Definitely.
And what role do you think that South by Southwest Sydney plays in shaping the future of your field?
Well, I think that, so, I mean, the billboards are that it's about the curious, right? Yeah. The curious are the ones who will shape the future. And I do think that an event like this, with the diverse range of content that is that's curated, creates an opportunity for people to really get outside of that one comfort zone. This is not an industry event for one industry. No, that's right. This is for everybody. And there's not that many events that are able to pull that off in a way that makes it really compelling and interesting. And so, when I go to different sessions, right, I can hear about the de-extinction of the woolly mammoth, and then I can hear about, why we should ban smartphones for people between 13 and 16 years old. And I can hear about all of these different challenges with food revolution and how food's being made. And that's all in one event. That's very unique. Absolutely. And just last question, Rohit, is there someone or something that you're really looking forward to seeing whilst you're here? Yeah, I mean, the Indian community here, the South Asian community, and some of the meetups that are happening around Indian creatives and Indian musicians and things like that. I'm so excited to buy that because, I lived here 20 years ago and it was a growing community, but it wasn't like this. And so now to be able to be on the kind of 2 decades later side of it and see that happening and see all those relationships. And it's not just Indian and South Asian. It's also this diverse message of all of these different cultures coming together and Sydney being a real place where that happens. It's been amazing to just see the difference. And maybe I see it differently because it was a long time that I was away.
Yeah.
And so when I see the difference, I'm like, everything from like, oh, those trees in Martin Place are bigger, right? Like
That's right.
through to
you can't drive down that street anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, everything like that, right?
Yeah.
But you really notice the difference. And I think Sydney has evolved in a really positive way. And I love seeing that.
That's great. Well, speaking of a positive way, we can get your message with your book here. I'm just going to hold that up for you there. Now, tell me, how can people get this book and why should they read it?
Yes, so this book is called Non-Obvious Thinking, and it's a very simple way of learning how to be what I call a non-obvious thinker through tips. So it's a very how-to oriented book. It's got 24 chapters, and each one has 2 tips. So there's 48 very specific things you can do. This is not a theory book.
Yeah,
this is let me just jump into it, read it super quickly. I've heard people say that they read it on like an hour and a half flight. I mean, and there's illustrations inside. So what I'm trying to do is make this idea that can feel like it's very academic and businessy, make it much more approachable for many more people, because I think there's a role for non-obvious thinking in everything that someone does.
Absolutely. Well, make sure that you get that book, and thank you so much for joining me, Rohit, in the South by Southwest Sydney studio.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And you can watch more of these videos at youtube.com/South by Southwest Sydney.